All right, yo, what's up? Welcome inside Executive Decisions. It's your boy Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive, coming to you on a Thursday, July 31st, final day of the month of July. That means we are getting ready to rock and roll into the month of August, which is really the last month that you may say we don't have no football. To me, we do have football in August. I'll be into the preseason, obviously, fantasy drafts, futures market, all of that stuff. So football hot and heavy on the docket as we go into the month of August. Steamer out there all across the country. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who's brand new to the Fantasy Executive page and Executive Decisions, I want you to go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. Help us get started, get rocking and rolling. Executive Decisions, flagship program of the Executive Network, coming to you 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We get it popping right here on YouTube. Coming up on the program today, a lot of football to talk about. Obviously, we got to get into the running back situation. It's been all the talk. I think I feel a little bit differently about it than a lot of other people in the industry and stuff like that. I want to talk about that. Dallas Cowboy camp underway. That's always the big deal. You know what I'm saying? So Dak Prescott at the podium. Dan Quinn also with some interesting comments. A couple of interesting things I heard checking out Dallas Cowboy camp. Sean Payton and the Denver Bronco camp. That got off to a rocking start. Sean Payton clapping at people all across the NFL. And then in New York, Aaron Rodgers claps back. So I want to get into that conversation. Give you my thoughts and opinions on that. A little bit of college football. I want to talk some Notre Dame and also University of Colorado, the Buffaloes, Coach Prime and that crew getting ready to switch up and change up conferences. But I do want to start with the running backs because that's kind of been the talk of really the last 2 or 3 weeks. Kind of all got started when Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard were not given contract extensions, and all of them at the time, you know, getting ready to play on the franchise tag. Barkley, you know, showed out, puffed out his chest a little bit. He may not play a few games, not going to train. Josh Jacobs hops on the plane, goes back to where he's going to go. He supposedly was in the parking lot with Max Crosby, ready to get the deal signed and go in there and join his team out there in Vegas for training camp. Didn't happen. Tony Pollard signed his tender, getting ready to make $10 million this season. It's so crazy that the running back franchise tag is going in the opposite direction. So there is some validity to what the running backs are saying. You know, I bet when Le'Veon Bell had that tag issue a number of years ago, the tag was like $13 million. Now it's 10. The tag is going down, which is wild. But Le'Veon Bell said himself, you better take that money. You know what I'm saying? He wish he had that money now. So I think there's a lot of posturing and stuff like that. Listen, the bottom line of the matter is this. The contracts are collectively bargained. This is the economics of football. If you don't like the finances or your contract situation, you have a union where you can go to. Now, the NFL Players Association has DeMaurice Smith as the head honcho of the union. He's basically an extension of the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Didn't have the players back with the vaccine. You know what I'm saying? A couple seasons ago. You know what I mean? Didn't hold them down with that. And then obviously you see how the running backs are all up in arms. But the truth of the matter is all of this stuff is collectively bargained. It's negotiated. This is the economics of football. It wasn't a problem when Saquon Barkley made $21 million his rookie season. It wasn't a problem when Todd Gurley, the ski-mask way to the Rams, tore up their salary cap. Zeke Elliott did the same thing in Dallas. Now McCaffrey got his deal. Kamara got his deal. Those are players that are dynamic in the passing game, but you see Carolina didn't have to trade him. The Saints ain't been good since. So there's different aspects that go into it. Trust me, these running backs are making their money. Backs get their money early in their career. And guys like Eckler, I can understand him being problematic because he plays for a poverty franchise in the Chargers. They was going to give that quarterback that money because everybody loves the quarterback. Quarterback, Herbert, great player, still hasn't won yet. But obviously, the finances and the economics of football, quarterback like Herbert going to get his big contract extension, his second deal. Running back, your second deal, it's going to be kind of shaky. If you make yourself a dynamic player, catch passes, stuff like that, then you got a better shot at getting a deal. Speaking of getting a deal, it's been reported and rumored that Vegas offered Jacobs a deal worth $12 million annually. Saquon Barkley comes back, signs a one-year deal with $900K in incentives, but he has to reach the playoffs and hit the incentives. Incentives that he's never accomplished in his career. Oh, and he got $2 million up front in the signing bonus. So really, it's something. This was a cash flow issue. Do we need to be having Zoom calls about this? Do we need to be all over social media acting like the running backs got to live in their parents' basement in the offseason? Let's not get carried away right now. This is the economics of football. Everybody knows the deal. Now, the latest is in Indianapolis. Jonathan Taylor thing is going to be interesting because Jim Irsay is with the shits. And apparently, I can't think of the young man's name right now, the agent for Jonathan Taylor is with the shits as well. Now, Taylor in OTAs was at the podium saying he'll worry about the contract at the end of the season. But I guess the running back group chat put a battery in his back and got with the agent, put a battery in his back, and let's go out and challenge the Indianapolis Colts. Man, Irsay is time and a half for it. They're talking about putting someone on a non-football injury list, basically make his contract void for this year if he don't show up. And now you're 2 years away from the franchise tag, JT. So don't act brand new. Your agent, as Irsay said, is probably giving you some bad advice. And Irsay also said something that was so true. If him or Jonathan Taylor was to leave this world today, knock on wood, the NFL would still go on. And these running backs need to understand that. You come in here, you know what the deal is. You're young back, you got your chance to make your bread. You better learn how to be effective in the passing game like Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara and guys like that. And then how you make yourself a dynamic player who is worth a second contract. But you can't hamstring the salary cap. Now, should wide receivers like Corey Davis and Hunter Renfrow be making that much more than running backs? No, 100%. Shouldn't be. That's what the running backs problem really is with. Not the quarterbacks, but the wide receivers. The wide receivers who are way overpaid, like the Corey Davises and the Renfrows. Yeah, you'd rather give that money to Josh Jacobs. So there is something to it, but to act like a group chat, Zoom call, complaining about it on social media was going to fix the problem, it's not the way it was going to go. This thing in Indianapolis will more likely play out with Jonathan Taylor huffing and puffing for a little bit, and then he'll come in there and he'll get to work. In the offseason, he'll get franchise tagged. It is what it is. Hopefully the tag number go up. You know what? Maybe he has a great season in that backfield with Anthony Richardson, and they do give him an offer somewhere in the $12 million annually range. If not, the franchise tag will beat it. And I understand it's not what you want. It's not ideal, but I do think that cooler heads will ultimately prevail. This agent right now seems like he's in the way, so it's a situation to keep an eye on. As far as fantasy goes, I'm still drafting JT. I'm buying the dip, put it like that. I'm not going to pay full price for him right now. That don't make no sense. But if you're getting a dip, I heard that in some of the weekend drafts, he was going on the 3 in that middle of the third round. Yeah, I'll take him there. I ain't got no problem with that. Not on every team. But I have no problem with buying a dip on JT because eventually he's going to be there. Le'Veon Bell already told y'all, go get that money. And that's exactly what Jonathan Taylor's going to do. It's exactly what Josh Jacobs is going to do. And that's exactly what Saquon Barkley did. Caused all of this trouble to basically get a $2 million signing bonus. Any bank in the United States would have gave Saquon Barkley a $2 million loan. Those incentives are going to be hard to reach. Really much to do about nothing with these running back situations. Other NFL topic I want to get into, I tell you what, Your boy Sean Payton is back, and he is coming out the gate firing. At least that's what it seems like to the naked eye. Press conference out there, Broncos training camp. Sean Payton, after a year off with the Saints, a little bit of media, then comes back, Denver Bronco head coach. That Bronco situation was terrible last year with Nate Hackett and Russell Wilson. And you know what? Drew Brees said it was terrible. Said it was one of the worst coaching jobs he's ever seen. Everybody jumped up and down. Everything hit the fan. Oh, Drew Brees this, Drew Brees that. He told this to my man Jared Bell at USA Today. Shout out to Jared Bell. J Bell, good dude, been around for a long time. So everybody up in arms, you know what I'm saying? Yo, Sean Payton lit, the Broncos lit. Broncos and Jets this year going to be crazy. Listen, truth of the matter is Sean Payton didn't tell no lies. Nate Hackett was terrible last year. They had to hire a dude to put in the booth to make sure, like a coach to coach Nate Hackett. They had to spend money on somebody else. When you go to hire a dude to be your head coach because you think he's going to bring somebody else, that's normally a bad idea. And that's what Denver did. They went, gave up the farm for Russell Wilson, hoping that they can get Aaron Rodgers. Hackett, Rodgers, that whole thing. Jets end up being successful in doing so. They did the Hackett thing, but not as the head coach, as the OC, which is probably what Hackett is better at. He couldn't hack it as a head coach. But don't. I'll be here all week. Sorry about that. I had to do that one. But Aaron Rodgers, just like the rest of the NFL world, catches wind of the comments of Sean Payton. Catches wind of Sean Payton's comment. If I said Breeze earlier, I apologize. Catches wind of Sean Payton's comments and claps back because that's the type of cat that Aaron Rodgers is. Son gonna clap back. Rodgers basically was like, you're so insecure about your job and your team. You know what I mean? How about you just keep my coach's name out your mouth? A little bit of fire coming from Aaron Rodgers. I'm getting Aaron Rodgers in a minute. But he is correct. You see, Sean Payton just wasn't talking as a sleight of tongue. Sean Payton, head coach, Super Bowl champion head coach, knew exactly what he was doing. And what he was doing was not just randomly throwing Hackett under the bus. He was setting the stage so if things don't work out this season, he can say, hey, maybe it wasn't Hackett. Maybe it was Russell Wilson. You see, you say Hackett did a terrible job, you're basically saying that Wilson's going to be okay. Now, if Wilson is not okay, you can say, hey, I gave Wilson every opportunity. I blamed Hackett for what happened the year before, but maybe it wasn't Hackett. Maybe it was Wilson. Because, you see, I don't think Sean Payton wants Russell Wilson as the quarterback. I think he liked that check he getting from the Walmart people. But I don't think he liked the quarterback he inherited. I actually think this made the Bronco job a tougher job to take this year. They wanted to give DeMeco Ryans the job. I don't think he wanted to deal with the quarterback situation. Because you got all this money tied up in this dude, and you basically may have to start over. Now, can Russ rebound and cook again under Sean Payton? I think the jury is still out on that one. But shout out to Aaron Rodgers, though. You know what I'm saying? I love Aaron Rodgers' new energy as a Jet. Down the stretch in Green Bay, I was like, man, Aaron Rodgers is a clown, bro. Kind of hold the organization hostage every year. Am I going to come back? Am I not? NFC Championship game where he could have ran for that first down and didn't. Then they punt on fourth down like they was going to get the ball back from Tom Brady. Seemed like he quit. Seemed like he gave up on that team. Down the stretch last year, that game against the Lions, just the body language didn't look good. I think that Rodgers was done with the Green Bay Packers. He gets to New York, and then he shows you how done he was with the Green Bay Packers because he gave the Jets $35 million back. He hated Green Bay. He would have never gave Green Bay a cent back. He hamstrung the franchise with his big-ass contracts. He comes to New York and tells the Jets, hey, go throw the money around and get whoever you want. Can you imagine that? He really wanted to be out in Green Bay. But now he's in New York with this Jet team. And you know what? whether they get Dalvin Cook or not, obviously you want Breece Hall to be healthy. You want to add a little piece to the running game just in case he isn't. Garrett Wilson's fantastic. That defense is tough. I worry about the head coach. But we've seen Rodgers with LaFleur, who is a head coach you would worry about as well. So I think the leadership of Rodgers and the energy of Rodgers can overcome the shortcomings of Robert Saleh. So much so that I would go ahead and place a future on the New York Jets to win the AFC East. Most shops right now, you can get the Jets at plus 250 to win the AFC East. So I'll take the Jets at plus 250. Go ahead and write that one down right there as an exec decision. The Jets at plus 250 to win the AFC East. I don't think it's a bad call, all right? And not so much because I'm buying into New York Jet hype. Like, I don't want to be that guy. You feel what I'm saying? To buy into New York Jet hype. That's like buying into New York Met hype. But, listen, not to throw disparages at the New York Mets, which I'm fine with doing so. They went out and tried, but the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. It's a different story than Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, two washed-up dudes. So, I like the Jets. I think they can win the AFC East. I'll put a future in on that. I don't know if I go over their win total. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I'll sprinkle that. But I like the AFC East thing because I think that Rodgers brings a different dynamic of leadership. And number two reason why I like the Jets to win the AFC East. To be honest, it could be the number one reason why I like the Jets to win the AFC East. Because I don't think the Buffalo Bills are as good as everybody thinks they are. And I think there is a culture issue in Buffalo. Because we saw how it ended last year. My man Snow Burrow up in Buffalo beating the brakes off them boys. We've seen Diggs and Allen on the sideline. But then Diggs and Allen on the sideline carried all the way into OTAs. And I think that was problematic. I think makes me think that the culture in Buffalo is rotten. Because as soon as you lose, you start pointing fingers, and then you still pointing fingers 5-6 months later. That's a bad look right there. I could see Allen being kind of immature. He's an interception thrower. Yeah, he's been AFC Championship, big game player. But, that team was the favorite going into last year. They didn't get it done. That happens. Was Allen terrible? No. But he lost some games for them. And Diggs was clearly pointing that out. But what kind of culture does this team have that this is still a problem? I was watching the fellas on the Pivot talk about it. And they was like, dudes have been dating a girl, will break up with her. Somebody else on the team will start dating her because every other city we go, we see the same joints. You know what I'm saying? And then he'll start bringing her back around the team again. Two dudes that have beef, off-season they come back, it's all good. How come that wasn't the case with Diggs and Allen? To the point where the coach, he walked it back, but he said he was concerned. I'm concerned about Buffalo coming up this upcoming season. As a matter of fact, I'm so concerned, I would go ahead and hit this right here, Buffalo Bills, under 10.5 on the win total. I'm not sure the Bills are an 11-win team this season. And when you look at the final 7 games, Jets at Eagles, at Chiefs, versus Cowboys, at Chargers, versus Patriots, at Dolphins. The Bills have a hellacious schedule this year. You look at that final 7, home for the Jets, at Philadelphia, at Kansas City, home for Dallas, on the road to the Chargers, which might as well be home. Bills Mafia take that stadium over, versus the Pats and at the Dolphins, 2 AFC East opponents. So, yeah, that Bills under 10.5 wins, I like that. I'll hit that one right there and make that an executive decision. Just something about that culture in Buffalo just don't seem right. So want to take advantage of that. I think the AFC East is going to be an interesting division this year. Miami is a team that I can't really get a read on because I don't know. Listen, I think they were very strong at times when Tua was out there doing this thing. And then I think it was times when, they kind of became the Miami Dolphins. I worry about their coaching too a little bit. But we'll see the Miami Dolphins sweepstakes. The Dalvin Cook sweepstakes. So just like every AFC East team is involved with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Keep an eye on that talk right there. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough sled for the Buffalo Bills this year. Then they're going to be one of the more curious teams to keep an eye on in the NFL this year. So especially with that hard schedule, they're going to be favorites in a lot of games. I think fate in the Buffalo Bills could be something. I spoke about the homies over there at the Pivot podcast. They do a great job, you know what I'm saying, talking to, a couple of former NFL players, talking to not just NFL guys, but people all around the sports world. And maybe about a month or so ago, I saw where they had an interview with Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman. And I was very impressed by Coach Freeman. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, that's a humongous big-time job for a young head coach to have, first-time head coach. Seems as if the players really liked him. He was a defensive coordinator. The players liked him. They fought for him. When Kelly bounced and went to LSU, they was like, yo, Marcus Freeman, come step up. So Freeman stepped up, got off to a bumpy start. They played Ohio State well last year to start his coaching career. Ended up losing that game, but they played them well. Played them just as good as Georgia and Michigan played them, except Georgia and Michigan got the wins. Right? They had that bad loss to Marshall. And it was interesting because Freeman said after the loss to Marshall, guys text his phone, hit him up. Mike Tomlin, some of the other coaches around the NFL and around college football, kind of telling him, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of tough, but today is going to be bad, but every day after this will get better. Just listening to Freeman talk, and I'm like, man, I can really get behind this guy. You know what I'm saying? Young man, but strong on his convictions. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a good college football coach. So it got me to thinking, how much do I like Notre Dame this year? And then it hit me. Man, Notre Dame finished strong last year. They had those 2 losses early. Then they kind of went on a run, ended up winning the bowl game versus South Carolina. But, South Carolina didn't have a lot of pieces out that week, but Notre Dame did too as well. Had to come back and win that game. Had a strong finish coming down the stretch of the season last year. That Notre Dame defense is tough. But what's really impressive is they went out and hit up the transfer portal and got the best quarterback in the transfer portal in Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. Now you got that strong defense in Notre Dame. You got that good up-and-coming head coach. And now you got the best quarterback in the transfer portal. So now you can put some pressure on teams offensively as well. So let's go ahead and make an executive decision. And let's bet Notre Dame at plus 500 to make the college football playoff. Go ahead and write that one down. Executive decision. Notre Dame at plus 500 to qualify for the college football playoff. Now, in order to do this, you have to have a path. And you know what? Notre Dame definitely does have a path to the college football playoff when you look at their schedule, right? They have a home game versus Ohio State. So that game from last year, now Ohio State comes to South Bend against that defense with a quarterback this year. 10-14, October 14th weekend. That's the kid birthday weekend. USC, Caleb Williams and the crew, they come to South Bend for their annual matchup. And then to start November, Notre Dame travels down here to my neck of the woods to take on the Clemson Tigers. So there is a path because really a one-loss Notre Dame team could qualify for the college football playoff, especially if they get a strong victory over Ohio State or Clemson or USC. USC should be good this year. They also go to North Carolina State. So I think Notre Dame is a team to keep an eye on. Now, when they get to the college football playoff and they run into the LSUs or the Georgias or the Alabamas, probably a little bit too much for them to win the whole thing. But Notre Dame to make the college football playoff, one of my favorite wagers going into the season. And I'm gonna back that one up, make that an executive's decision. I implore you to do the same for me. Listen, we're gonna have plenty of college football content. That's why I tell you to go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell, you know what I'm saying? Hit that like button if you like our executive decisions, leave a comment, whatever the case may be. Definitely appreciate you rocking and rolling with the Fantasy Executive. Before we get out of here today, Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes, shout out to Coach Prime, seeing where he had another procedure done on his foot. You know, prayers up to Coach Prime. That's a tough thing he's going through right now. But he's getting ready to coach his boys, getting ready to get them into camp and getting ready to get them for big noon kickoff. You know, Colorado is not probably the worst Power 5 program there is. Now, Coach Prime is there. It brings a lot of excitement. Matter of fact, they get the big noon kickoff right to start the season. Plenty of other national televised games for the Buffaloes as well. You don't have to search for the Pac-12 network to find the Colorado Buffaloes. As a matter of fact, starting next season, you ain't going to find the Colorado Buffaloes on the Pac-12 network at all because Colorado is returning to the Big 12. And when I heard that news, it kind of made me think of the Requiem for a Big East. When I forgot the name of the Big East commissioner at the time, when he got the word that from John Thompson that Patrick Ewing was coming to Georgetown, he called the commission. The commission immediately picked up the phone and called Madison Square Garden and was like, Ewing's coming to Georgetown. We're going to the Garden for our tournament. So I can guess when Rick George got the word that Deion Sanders was coming to Colorado, he got on the phone with Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark and was like, Deion's coming to Colorado and we're coming to the Big 12. And then Deion said, we coming, baby. So that's probably how that went down right there. So listen, smart move by Colorado to abandon what seems like a sinking ship in the Pac-12. Now, it's not like Colorado had this big football prowess anyway. But the addition of Coach Prime does make them a premier, at least entertainment option when it comes to college football. Now, they're the biggest college football liability in the sports book, which is wild. Like, that shouldn't be. But with a win total, a modest win total of 3.5, make it an executive decision to bet the over on the Colorado Buffaloes. You'll have a good time watching their games, rooting on Coach Prime, Shedeur Sanders, that whole crew. You know what I'm saying? They're going to get plenty of big-time matchups, plenty of national televised games. So, yeah, go ahead and bet that over, sweat that with us this season. Now, I think the team on the field, I think you got to start early. Obviously, the first matchup versus TCU is going to be tough down there in Fort Worth. But then they get Nebraska and Colorado State. They got to win at least one of those games. They win 2. I think you'd be in pretty good shape to cash that ticket. Are they going to be a bowl team right away? I would say they do win enough to make it to a bowl game. I don't think it's going to be a New Year's Day game. Obviously, still a long way to go. But I think you'll see enough improvement to where you'll feel as if, okay, Colorado wasn't a fraud coming into the season, and I'll take the over on the 3.5. And as far as them leaving the Pac-12 goes, you know, the Pac-12 is in the spot right now to where it could fall out of that power conference. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it seems like the Big Ten and the SEC are headed to the top of the heap of college football, with the Big 12 and the ACC, you know, keeping afloat. Now, obviously, if Florida State and Clemson get frisky, that could be a bad news for the ACC. And if I'm the ACC, if they do that at that point, then I go get some of those old Big East schools and make a power basketball conference, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so shout out to Colorado for getting to the Big 12, to keeping themselves relevant, especially if they plan on being. That puts them in a good spot to recruit. Like, Deion going to recruit the nation anyway, but now you get into that Big 12, you can get into Texas and some of those areas down there. So, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to the Colorado Buffaloes for that. Now, that is executive decision for the last day of the month of July. Going to have some fantasy football stuff on the channel shortly. I got some NBA videos I'm going to drop soon as well. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe. You know what I'm saying? And thank you for rocking with me on Executive Decisions right here on the Executive Network.